The Seattle Seahawks have released their top 50 players in franchise history list. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well on this Saturday. And today we're going to be doing something just a little bit frivolous and fun. Today we're going to be doing something that has been in the works for a little while now. It's something that was talked about last year. It's something I made a video about last year. And now the team has gone ahead and officially announced it. It is their list of the top 50 players in franchise history. Last year, this was getting some hype because obviously this upcoming season is going to be the 50th season in Seahawks franchise history. And to commemorate that, one of the things they're doing is releasing this list. And the list is now completely out. It can be viewed in full on the Seahawks official website. It can be viewed in a couple other places as well. And I thought it'd be fun to go ahead and take a look at it. And it would also be fun to compare it to my own list, because last year when the Seahawks announced that they were doing this, I put together my prediction on what the list might look like. And we got a lot right, for sure. We got some stuff wrong. And thought it'd be fun to go ahead and take a look at what they did compared to what I did and see where the differences were, see where the similarities were, and basically just celebrate a franchise that over the 50 years they've been in existence have been, I would say, probably more good than bad. It hasn't always been a clear run at things. Obviously, the 70s were not so great. The 90s were very rough. But other than that, this team has found a decent amount of success. There are teams out there that have been more successful, but there are also certainly teams that have been less successful. And in my lifetime of watching the Seahawks, which is from 96 on, it's been a lot more good than bad. So this is the list, obviously, here on screen from the official website. But what I did is I put my list and the Seahawks list into an Excel spreadsheet so we could easily compare position by position. And that is how we're going to get a feel for how different things were and what I missed. I mean, I don't really know if you can miss on something like this because it's all just subjective, but basically just the differences. Before we get started on this, though, please like this video, click the thumbs up button if you haven't already, subscribe if you're new, click the bell for notifications, become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to support the channel. Let's take a look here. So quarterback, we'll start with quarterback. I had 3, Russell Wilson, Dave Craig, Matt Hasselbeck. I thought that was actually pretty simple. And the Seahawks have the same, but they also have Jim Zorn. And I can understand why Jim Zorn is on this list. He is an iconic Seahawk. I don't know how good he was, to be perfectly honest. I don't know if you could really say that he was a better player for the Seahawks than a few players that got left off this list in terms of actual impact, but I can kind of understand it. I don't know if I agree with it, but it's not hard to understand why Jim Zorn might be here. But this is kind of it's a great example of that really, really tough debate where you're like, on the one hand, he was your first quarterback ever, and he was the quarterback for a decent period of time, but is he really one of the 50 best players in franchise history? I'm not so sure. Okay, so running back was Alexander, Lynch, Kurt Warner, Chris Warren, and that's what it was on the official list as well. Alexander, Lynch, Warner, Warren. So not much to say there other than it wasn't too hard, right? I don't know what else you would put here. I don't know who you would take off. And fullback the same. I had Strong and John Williams. Max Strong, John Williams. Those were your 2 fullbacks. So pretty easy. Wide receiver, however, I got the top 5, I think. Largent, Lockett, Blades, Baldwin, Jackson. The official list had Largent, Lockett, Blades, Baldwin, Jackson. So we got all that, but they added 2 guys at the end here. Bobby Engram, who I certainly thought about, didn't ultimately end up putting him on the list, but I guess I can see it. He was one of our top wide receivers the year we first made the Super Bowl. He did have good years here. He was our number one receiver in 2007 when Hasselbeck had his best year. I just didn't know if I saw him as a top 50 guy for his career compared to some of these other guys. They also included DK Metcalf, who I certainly thought about. And remember, my list was put together last year. So what Metcalf did last season wasn't included in my considerations. Now, Metcalf didn't have a stellar year last year, but he certainly added some volume to his career stats. So if I had done this list in this offseason, I may have put Metcalf on. I'm not sure. But I think that's totally understandable why he would be there. It's certainly tight. It's certainly tight with somebody like I compared him to a Daryl Jackson, and it's close. So sure. I don't know about Engram, but it's certainly not a bad pick. And I think Metcalf at this point is probably about right. Tackle, only one, Walter Jones, accurate. I think that you give it some time, Charles Cross will be on a list like this, but hasn't happened yet, obviously. And then you have guard. I went Chris Gray, Edwin Bailey, Steve Hutchinson, and the Seahawks official list went Gray, Bailey, Hutchinson, but they also threw Brian Millard on. So I did miss Millard, not a player that I'm overly familiar with, so I'm not going to feel too bad about that one. And then at center, we had Robbie Tobeck and Max Unger, which Robbie Tobeck, Max Unger, we got it. Okay, no problem. So that's the offense. They have a few more offensive players than I do, but overall, I think we did good. So now we're going over to the defensive side of things, and I had what is this? Yeah, 3 defensive ends: Jacob Green, Michael Sinclair, and Michael Bennett. I thought those 3 were pretty much slam dunks. And the official list went Green, Sinclair, Bennett, but they also went Cliff Averill and Jeff Bryant. Now, Jeff Bryant was like my bubble guy. He was like 51 on my list. So certainly no objection to him being put on the top 50. Averill, I just felt like wasn't quite as impactful as Bennett, but we are talking about our starting edge rushers for the Super Bowl victory and the back-to-back Super Bowl trips. So there's certainly nothing wrong with putting both guys on. I thought Averill just barely missed it, but nothing wrong with putting him on that list. And then at defensive tackle, I went Cortez, Joe Nash, and Jaron Reed. And the official list goes Kennedy, Nash, and Brandon Mebane. Now, another interesting one, right? Because Mebane was part of the team that won the Super Bowl, and Reed was not. Reed's been here longer, and I think individually, if you look at the individual contributions of the two players, is a better player. But Mebane's more iconic because he was here when we won the Super Bowl. So I get it. I can't say that I agree, but I don't think it's egregious either. So they did throw on a couple of edge rushers that I didn't have, but I certainly get it, especially Bryant. I think Bryant is, I mean, he may as well have made my list. Okay, middle linebacker, I went Wagner and Tutupu. And the official list went Wagner, Tutupu, and Fred Young, who I missed. Now, Fred Young was someone that I was aware of. He only played for the Seahawks for 4 years, but he made the Pro Bowl all 4 seasons. So that's an interesting one. I certainly don't object to him making the list. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But he ended up getting left off of mine. And I think that looking back at it, a 4-time Pro Bowler, or maybe it was 3, but I'm pretty sure it was a 4-time Pro Bowler. That's probably good enough. You should at least be in consideration if you're that decorated. All right, so my outside linebackers were KJ Wright, Chad Brown, Leroy Hill, Rufus Porter. So the Seahawks list was KJ Wright, Chad Brown, Rufus Porter, and Keith Butler. So no Leroy Hill, but they did put Butler on instead, which I don't mind. I think Leroy Hill, I mean, if you're going to put a guy like Mebane on the list, mostly because he was part of the Super Bowl team, then I feel like somebody like Leroy Hill, who was on the team that made the Super Bowl for the first time in 2005, probably should be on there for the same reason. But okay, sure. Nothing too objectionable there, I don't think. Cornerback, I went Richard Sherman, Marcus Trufant, Dave Brown, Patrick Hunter, and Sean Springs. Now, this list here was somewhat different. Sherman, Trufant, Brown, But then the fourth guy was Witherspoon, and there was no fifth guy. Now, there's no way I would have put Witherspoon on my list because he had only played one season when I made my list. He's now played two. I still don't know how I feel about a player that only played two seasons on this team that has never played in a playoff game or been part of a great defense and hasn't even played every game those two seasons. I don't know about that. I struggle with that a little bit. I know that he will be here for sure because he is that good of a player. I don't know about putting Witherspoon at the top 50 over players like Hunter and Springs when he's been here two seasons. Like, I could have understood putting Russell Wilson on the top 50 list after two seasons because he's a quarterback and we won a Super Bowl with him starting a quarterback and he played every game and he had four playoff victories. Witherspoon, I don't know. Safety, I thought they went very light on. At strong safety, I had Kenny Easley, Blackman, Cam Chancellor, and Jay Bellamy. They only had Easley and Chancellor. Now, those are the two slam dunks. Those are the two guys who obviously deserve to be here. Blackman and Bellamy, less so, but I was still surprised. They were very impactful players for the early Seahawks. I would have put them on my list. Now, granted, some guys have to get left off because they're adding on extra receivers, an extra quarterback, an extra guard, extra edge rushers, but Blackman and Bellamy, I thought, were, granted, borderline. It's not egregious to leave them off, but I would have certainly put them on. Free safety, I also loaded up Earl Thomas, Eugene Robinson, Harris, Quandre Diggs, and Darrell Williams. And they had Thomas, Robinson, and Harris only. So they left off Diggs and left off Darrell Williams. Darrell Williams, understandable. Diggs, he made, 3 Pro Bowls when he was here? I don't know. I guess it's not the end of the world. It's not like he was part of a team that won the Super Bowl or part of some great Seahawks defense. But I think that Diggs' accomplishments here, making the Pro Bowl multiple times and having the interceptions that he did, was worthy of top 50 honoring. But again, you have to leave some players off. If you're going to add players like Metcalf and Engram and Fred Young, you're going to have to leave some guys off. So not terrible. I did have 2 kickers on my list, Norm Johnson and Stephen Hauschka. There were no kickers on the official list, which I really have to push back on it. Norm Johnson, all-time leading scorer for the Seahawks franchise, a long-time franchise kicker, and Hauschka, the kicker the year you won the Super Bowl. I mean, I understand that this team has never had a kicker like a Vinatieri or even somebody like maybe a Greg Zuerlein, somebody who had a big cannon leg that you just love to have around. I understand that they've never had a kicker like that. They haven't even had like a Mike Vanderjagt, who was at the very least a very productive kicker. But Norm Johnson not being on the list to me is a real head scratcher. And Hauschka, maybe not Hauschka, but definitely Norm Johnson. And I had John Ryan and Michael Dixon as the punters, and they were also on the team. So that's it. So we got a lot right. We got some stuff wrong. Although, again, I don't know if right or wrong really comes into play here when it's all just perspective. And again, a player like a Metcalf, a player like a Witherspoon, they've had the opportunity to build more playing time since I made my list. So it's not even an equivalent list. So that is about, that's all I got. Let me know what you guys think. And go Hawks.